students. In this period of instruction, we are going to discuss the purpose, why we do the 1 rep max test. And if you remember in class, after you completed the trial portion of the lab, so actually after you did the exercises and you performed less than 10 repetitions to failure and you recorded the weight that you lifted less than 10 times, the next thing that we had to figure out is, was the predicted 1 rep max. And the way we did that was we used a chart, and the information on that chart told us that each repetition correlates to a percent of your 1 rep max. So if you actually did 1 repetition of a particular exercise, 1 and 1 rep only, that represents 100% of your 1 rep max. If you performed 2 repetitions, assuming you did it to failure and couldn't do it 3 times, then that represented, say, 96% of your 1 rep max. 3 times represented 91% of your 1 rep max. Don't quote me on those numbers. So we see the correlation between the number of repetitions and the percent of your 1 rep max that would represent. And then we use the chart going down the columns and then over to the 1 column, right? Representing 1 repetition, 100% of our 1 rep max. And that's how we predicted our 1 rep max. And then we started to get into how that's relevant to exercise prescription, and that's what we're going to discuss right now. So remember that for every training objective, there is a specific exercise prescription. There is a specific prescription in order for you to meet that training objective. Goals are different from training objectives. A goal is an aspiration. I want to get fitter, I want to look better, I want to feel better. A training objective specifically is muscular endurance, muscular hypertrophy, muscular strength, or muscular power. So remember, endurance would be, say, for the endurance athlete, maybe a basketball player running up and down the court for an hour and a half. Someone wants to do their first Tough Mudder or Spartan race. So there's a lot of climbing and agility type exercises and running. So this would be appropriate for them. Muscle hypertrophy, maybe the bodybuilder would be interested in muscle hypertrophy, increasing the visible muscle tissue or just muscle tissue in general. Strength, increasing your maximum force production, and power adds speed to your maximum force production. Regardless of what your training objective is, we know that we need 4 pieces of information in order to develop a training plan that is going to most effectively help you meet that training objective. We need to know the percent of 1 rep max. We need to know the number of sets per exercise, the number of repetitions per set, and the amount of time we should rest between sets. So starting with the first piece, the percent of 1 rep max, this is what's going to tell you how much weight you should lift. So as a trainer, if someone comes to me and says, Patty, how much weight should I lift? I'd say, I don't know. What are you trying to accomplish? And then when they tell me what they're trying to accomplish, then I have to determine, well, how much can you currently lift? Usually, the practical way to do that for most people is through trial and error, right? You go to the gym, someone tells you, yeah, just do 8 to 10 repetitions. So you play around with the weight until you find a weight that you can only lift 8 to 10 times. And we'll get into that in the next lesson. Overload, consistency, and progressive resistance. But right now, the percent of 1 rep max helps me determine how much weight I should lift based on my desired training objective. I'm also going to want to know the number of sets per exercise, the number of repetitions per set, and the amount of time I should rest between sets. So those 4 pieces of information are what you need to put together a comprehensive and effective training plan. But the numbers are going to change based on your desired training objective. And so I don't need you to memorize all of these numbers, but I do want you to recognize that there is a correlation between your percent of 1 rep max, the amount of weight you lift, and the number of times that you can lift it. Okay? But of course, the number of sets you do per exercise and the amount of time you rest between sets, those are all important pieces of information. So the more weight I lift, the heavier it is, the fewer times I'm going to be able to lift it, and the more time I'm going to need to rest or recover between sets. And so I would always recommend for someone, regardless of their training objective, if you're just getting back into it, if you're just starting out, muscular endurance is a really good place to start. You're not stressing the joints. You are allowing yourself, your neuromuscular system to adapt to the movement, right? You're allowing a sort of more controlled and comprehensive range of motion, or working more comprehensively through the entire range of motion, which is really important. Heavier weight puts more stress on the body and on the system, and if you are not familiar with the exercise, or you haven't completely trained the stabilizer muscles, you might want to, right, it's periodization, but that's another concept for another time. I'm just recommending that people start out with endurance, or even hypertrophy would be appropriate, but you want to make sure that you're working through the entire range of motion at the joint. Again, another period of instruction. See, we could go on for everything. Everything leads into the next. What I do want to tell you, though, is, in terms of the distinction between the training objectives, they do all dovetail. I mean, you're going to become stronger if you engage in any of these training objectives. But at the further ends of the spectrum, all right, this is going to be where you really start to see the difference in terms of, if you only stay with muscular endurance, you're not going to have a really big impact on muscular power or muscular strength, because by muscular strength, my objective is to increase or maximize my force potential. And so if I train at muscular endurance and muscular endurance only, I will increase my maximum strength compared to where I started, but I won't achieve my actual maximum strength. Just like I tell people, look, I know that you want to be as strong and powerful as possible, but don't start there. You have to start here at muscular endurance, allowing for full range of motion, allowing for, balance, perfect execution of the exercise, working out the details where the tissues originate and insert. So again, the 1 repetition max lab and the 1 repetition max findings are relevant to exercise prescription. And we know that there is a specific prescription for each training objective. And we know that each training objective, endurance, hypertrophy, strength, and power, all need to include these 4 pieces of information: the percent of 1 rep max, the number of sets that I do per exercise, the number of repetitions I do per set, and the amount of time I rest between sets. So I will follow up with this video with an outline specifically about the things that I want you to remember from this period of instruction. Exercise prescription, relevant to training objectives, the training objectives are, and the pieces of information that you need to put together an effective training program, though differing for each training objective. Okay, that's easy, right? All right, you guys, I hope that you are training hard. I hope that you are feeling strong. I hope you are being successful in this transition to online learning. I am here for you if you have any questions. And I do want you to understand how beneficial strength training can be as you navigate through this craziness and are moving forward. The one thing that you can always fall back on is your physical strength, which will hopefully help build some confidence and a little intestinal fortitude, as I like to say. Okay, so again, reach out to me if you have any questions, if you need anything. I am not going to hold you accountable for anything that has not been delivered to you. So just inhale and relax. Please do something every day because it's good for you. But as we move forward, I will be clearer and clearer in terms of what I need from you. And you're all doing a great job if that helps. All right, you guys, I'll see you in the next lesson.